Hours after a picture-perfect wedding in Dubai, the bride was found dead in a luxury suite, leaving investigators to uncover a hidden world of fake identities, global scams, and a past she thought she buried forever. This wasn't just a marriage. It was a countdown to a deadly truth. The luxury Dubai resort shimmered under rows of golden lanterns as guests arrived in designer clothing, expecting a flawless evening free from worry. Music drifted across the courtyard, slow and elegant, setting a calm mood that hid the pressure beneath the surface. Every detail seemed perfect, from the tall floral arches to the glistening tables arranged near the shoreline. Yet a subtle unease lingered, something no one could name. The bride, Lena Carter, walked with measured grace, her expression serene but strangely distant, as if she were listening to sounds no one else could hear. Her gaze moved continually across the crowd, tracing unfamiliar faces and pausing briefly on shadows at the far end of the garden. Omar Rashid, the groom, greeted guests warmly, but even he carried an unusual stiffness in his posture. Those closest to him noticed his deep breaths and the way he repeatedly adjusted his cufflinks. The evening unfolded with laughter and toasts, but beneath each cheerful moment lay an invisible current of tension. Some guests whispered that the couple seemed tired, while others brushed it off as wedding day nerves. As the ceremony reached its quiet climax, a cool breeze swept through, flickering candles and sending a shiver across the venue. No one realized how quickly joy would turn to horror. The celebration was merely a thin layer covering a storm brewing out of sight, ready to break open hours later. What looked like a dream was already unraveling, and every smile captured in photographs would soon become evidence of a night marked by secrets too heavy to remain hidden. None of them imagined the truth waiting to erupt before the night reached its end there. Before Lena ever stepped into Dubai's glittering world, she had already lived several lives under different names. Each identity was crafted carefully, designed to erase the failures and dangers that trailed behind her. Her past in Europe was a maze of temporary apartments, prepaid phones, and sudden disappearances whenever someone grew suspicious. She mastered the art of vanishing, leaving behind confused landlords, unanswered messages, and financial trails that ended abruptly. Her ability to transform herself became both her shield and her prison, forcing her to remain alert at all times. The move to Dubai was supposed to be her clean break, a final attempt to outrun the shadow that followed her. She believed the city's fast pace and diverse population would hide her better than the quiet towns she once drifted through. Yet, even in her new apartment, she kept the curtains drawn, the locks changed, and her documents hidden in separate compartments. She never told Omar about the late-night flights, the wealthy men she charmed, or the accounts she drained before disappearing. She erased every digital trace she could find, but fragments of her old life lingered in places she could not reach. Sometimes she sensed the past catching up, especially when unknown numbers called repeatedly before falling silent again. She moved quickly, always prepared to relocate, yet she longed for a stability she had never experienced. Her engagement to Omar felt like a miracle, but deep inside she feared it was only a pause before another collapse. She hoped marriage would free her, unaware danger waited close. Omar had tried to ignore the uneasiness that shadowed his relationship with Lena, but the signs grew sharper the closer the wedding approached. The first incident seemed harmless. A second phone tucked between clothes in her suitcase, powered off and without a case. She dismissed it as an old device, yet he noticed her checking it late at night, ensuring it remained hidden. Then came the unexplained bank withdrawals, amounts too large to overlook. Lena blamed overseas obligations, but her explanations changed each time. Omar wanted to trust her, yet the inconsistencies pressed against his instincts like a quiet alarm he couldn't turn off. The most unsettling moment arrived 2 days before the wedding, when an anonymous message appeared on his phone. It contained no name, no details, only a cryptic warning urging him to reconsider everything. He stared at the message for hours, debating whether to confront Lena or dismiss it as a prank. Instead, he kept it secret, replaying its meaning in his mind during every ceremony rehearsal. He thought hiring a private investigator would ease his doubts, but the report he received was incomplete and strangely vague. It mentioned a missing period in Lena's timeline, several outdated documents, and inconsistencies in her employment history. The investigator claimed the information was difficult to verify, which only deepened Omar's concern. During moments alone, Omar felt a tightening in his chest, a fear he could not define. He watched Lena closely, noticing how she avoided certain topics and changed the subject whenever he asked about her past. Even her smiles seemed carefully constructed, as if she rehearsed them. Despite everything, he proceeded with the wedding, hoping love would silence the warnings. But the unease followed him into the ceremony like a shadow refusing to disappear. The honeymoon suite was prepared hours before the couple arrived, filled with rose petals, soft lighting, and a balcony overlooking Dubai Marina. It was designed to represent peace, yet the moment Lena stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. She paused at the doorway, scanning each corner as though expecting something to jump out. Her hands trembled slightly when she set her handbag down, a movement so subtle most people would have missed it. Omar entered behind her, equally tense, his eyes wandering to her belongings with a heaviness he couldn't hide. The staff who delivered their luggage later reported sensing an unusual stiffness between them, a quiet tension that made the luxurious suite feel strangely cold. As the evening progressed, the distance grew thicker, almost physical. Lena kept glancing toward the hallway, reacting to soft sounds no one else seemed able to hear. She moved with caution, as if the walls themselves held secrets she feared would surface. Omar, carrying the weight of everything he had discovered, watched her closely. He noticed faint scratches on her second phone, worn edges on her documents, and the way she shielded her bag whenever he walked past it. Outside, the city sparkled with calm beauty, but inside the suite, the air felt suffocating. The silence between them was sharp enough to cut through the romantic setting. Every small noise, the closing of a drawer, the shift of fabric, the hum of the air conditioner, seemed louder than usual. When the suite door shut for the final time that night, it became a barrier separating them from the world. No staff, no guests, no cameras were present to witness what would unfold. The room, meant for celebration, instead became the stage for a tragedy already brewing beneath the surface, unseen and unstoppable. Omar waited until Lena stepped into the bathroom, the sound of running water giving him the moment he had been dreading yet craving. His hands shook as he reached for her handbag, the same bag she kept close throughout the entire wedding. The zipper felt heavier than it should, as if it resisted being opened. Inside, the first items seemed ordinary: makeup, perfume, a folded scarf. But beneath these harmless objects lay the truth he had feared. A stack of bank cards appeared first, each carrying a different name, none of them hers. He lifted them slowly, noticing how worn the edges were, evidence of long and frequent use. Digging deeper, he found a bundle of SIM cards wrapped with an elastic band, labeled with handwritten codes he didn't understand. Hidden under a slim notebook was a second passport, the photo unmistakably Lena's but attached to a name he had never heard. The notebook itself contained rows of numbers, initials, dates, and foreign addresses. Every page hinted at a life carefully split into fragments, each one arranged to mislead anyone who tried to follow her trail. The most disturbing discovery came in a sealed envelope marked with faint symbols he couldn't interpret. When he opened it, photographs fell out. Lena standing beside older men in various cities, dressed elegantly, smiling in ways Omar had never seen. Attached to some photos were printed records of drained bank accounts, their balances reduced to almost nothing. Each item in the bag struck him like a blow, confirming that the whispers in his mind had been warnings rather than doubts. The woman he had married hours earlier was not who she claimed to be. As he placed the items on the bed, the truth settled in his chest with crushing weight, changing everything in an instant. Lena stepped out of the bathroom and instantly sensed that something was wrong. The air in the suite felt heavier, as if the temperature had dropped. Omar stood near the bed, his posture rigid, his eyes fixed on the scattered contents of her handbag. Although no words were exchanged, the truth between them hung like a blade suspended in midair. Lena's pulse quickened, and a chill ran through her as she realized everything she had worked to hide was now exposed. Her instinct was to flee. She moved toward the door with calculated silence, but the moment her fingers touched the handle, she found it locked from the inside. Panic pressed into her lungs. Cameras later captured the brief moment she stepped into the hallway earlier, attempting to steady her breathing before returning, but now she had no path left to escape. Inside the room, a storm of tension grew. Lena looked around for anything that could give her time. Her phone, her suitcase, even the balcony door. Every sound felt amplified. The faint hum of the mini fridge, the distant honking from the street below, her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Omar didn't move immediately, yet his silent presence carried a weight impossible to ignore. Investigators would later reconstruct the moments that followed through the state of the room. A lamp toppled to the floor, leaving shards across the carpet. Cushions were displaced, drawers left open, and marks on the wall suggested a struggle. The clues painted a picture of desperation, fear, and rapidly escalating chaos. What had begun as a night of celebration now spiraled into a confrontation fueled by secrets that could no longer remain buried. Each shift in the room signaled a step closer to disaster, with both of them trapped inside a space that had already begun closing in around them. The reconstruction of the final minutes in the suite revealed a sequence of events driven by panic, instinct, and collapsing control. Lena's first attempt at escape led her to the balcony, where investigators later found faint fingerprints smeared along the glass rail. She had pushed the sliding door open with enough force to leave marks on the frame, suggesting a desperate attempt to slip outside. The height of the suite made the balcony a dangerous refuge, yet fear pushed her toward it. The cool night wind carried the distant sounds of the marina, but none of it offered safety. Inside, the struggle grew increasingly violent. The overturned furniture indicated sudden bursts of force, as if the confrontation moved across the room in unpredictable waves. A decorative vase shattered against the floor, scattering fragments that mixed with thin streaks of blood. The bedsheets were pulled and tangled, hinting at moments when Lena tried to break free from Omar's grasp. Her movements were frantic but uncoordinated, showing a rapid decline in strength as shock and exhaustion took over. The lamp found broken on the bed became a significant clue. Its jagged edge suggested it had been clutched or swung at some point, though investigators could not determine whether it slipped from her hand or fell during the struggle. The pattern of impact across the carpet told a story of stumbling, resistance, and escalating violence. At some moment, the confrontation reached a point of no return. Lena collapsed near the foot of the bed, her attempts at escape fading into faint movements. The room settled into an eerie stillness, interrupted only by the muffled noise of distant hotel activity beyond the walls. By the time security eventually approached, the suite had already absorbed the final moments of a life that had run out of places to hide. When officers entered the suite, the scene struck them with silent intensity. Omar sat on the floor, motionless, his eyes fixed on the lifeless body lying a few feet away. He did not resist or attempt to flee. Instead, he appeared hollow, as if the chaos had drained every emotion from him. The officers secured the room, documenting each detail with methodical precision. The scattered objects, the broken items, and the disarray spoke of a violent unraveling rather than a sudden impulse. Once Lena's belongings were collected, investigators began piecing together her hidden history. The multiple passports, SIM cards, coded notebooks, and financial records pointed to a level of organization far beyond typical deception. Teams from cybercrime units scanned her devices, uncovering traces of encrypted messages exchanged across several countries. The communications suggested coordinated planning, shared targets, and financial operations involving numerous individuals. Interpol became involved within hours, ordering cross-border checks on each identity Lena had used. Matches quickly appeared, fraud reports filed in 3 European nations, flagged transactions in Southeast Asia, and open cases tied to luxury travel scams in the Middle East. Every inquiry led to another unanswered question, painting a picture of a woman whose life had been built on layers of secrecy. The more investigators dug, the more they realized how deeply she had been entangled in something far larger than a personal scheme. Some associates had gone missing years earlier, disappearing exactly the way Lena had in her past. Others were still active, using new identities that shifted like smoke. Media outlets seized the story immediately, framing Lena as a mysterious figure with a past no one fully understood. What had occurred in the suite was clear, but the world she came from remained a puzzle, filled with empty names, vanished accomplices, and a lingering sense that someone else might have been searching for her before tragedy unfolded. The deeper investigators delved into Lena's background, the more intricate and unsettling her history became. Each identity she carried opened the door to a separate trail of deception. Bank records revealed accounts under different nationalities, many of them linked to deposits that disappeared within days. Surveillance footage from airports across Europe showed her entering cities under one name and leaving under another, always alone and always without leaving a clear pattern. It became evident she had built a life designed to confuse anyone who attempted to follow her. Authorities soon traced her connections to an underground network specializing in romance fraud and high-value financial manipulation. This network operated silently, using temporary identities, encrypted communication channels, and well-planned recruitment strategies. Members rarely met face-to-face, relying instead on coded exchanges to coordinate targets. Lena appeared to have been one of the more skilled operatives, using her strategic charm and meticulous planning to identify vulnerable, wealthy individuals. But what alarmed investigators most was the possibility that Lena had been trying to detach herself from the network. Some of her more recent transactions suggested unusual gaps, as if she had stopped sending a full portion of the money she collected. Encrypted messages found on her phone hinted at tension, with certain contacts repeatedly demanding updates. There were signs she may have been withholding information or delaying communication, a dangerous move within an organization built on secrecy and control. The disappearance of several network members immediately after her death raised further suspicion. It suggested her death did not simply close a chapter, but disrupted something larger. Investigators began questioning whether Lena had feared retaliation, whether her decision to marry Omar was an attempt to disappear once more, and whether the past she tried to abandon had started closing in long before the wedding night became her final stand. Omar's conviction brought a grim end to a case already heavy with unanswered questions. The courtroom remained tense throughout the proceedings, filled with reporters, investigators, and curious onlookers drawn to the mystery of Lena's double life. Omar appeared drained, carrying the weight of a night he could not undo. His sentence reflected both the brutality of the outcome and the circumstances that led him into a situation far more complex than he ever understood. His family withdrew from public view, attempting to distance themselves from the media storm that surrounded the case. Lena's relatives, located in another country, responded with silence. Weeks passed before anyone claimed her body, and even then, the process was handled quietly, as if acknowledging her publicly would expose secrets better left buried. They denied knowledge of her criminal involvement, insisting she had contacted them only sporadically in recent years, always with new explanations for her lifestyle and location. Their grief mixed with confusion, leaving them unsure of how much of her life had ever been real. As the investigation continued, international agencies pursued leads connected to the network she had once been part of. Some digital trails abruptly vanished, accounts were closed, and safe houses were abandoned overnight. It became clear that Lena's death had sent ripples through the hidden world she belonged to. Whether she had been attempting to escape or already marked by her own associates remained an unresolved question. The case soon evolved into a cautionary tale circulated across social media, true crime forums, and documentaries. Viewers debated whether Lena was a villain, a victim, or both. Her story served as a chilling reminder of how easily a perfect life can conceal a dangerous truth. The wedding that was meant to symbolize a beginning instead became a stark demonstration of how secrets, once exposed, can destroy everything in their path.